Hey guys, Dwayne here. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about co-parenting with a narcissist. Not exactly a fun topic, but one I think is important, and it kind of goes along with the theme of what I've been talking about over the last few videos. Okay, so the big question. You've realized that you're dealing with a narcissist, but you have kids with them. So probably during your divorce papers and all that kind of stuff, you talked about establishing a co-parenting plan. Well, here's the thing. If you're dealing with a narcissist, there is no co-parenting. It isn't going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. It's a mess. Okay? Wish it wasn't. I wish I had some better news for you. And I think, the better you kind of the sooner you wrap your head around this whole concept, the better off you're going to be. Because I know I beat my head against the wall on this one. So there is no co-parenting with a narcissist. It's impossible. You can't do it. There's nothing you can do. You're going to basically end up with what I call a perpetual Groundhog Day effect. Have you ever seen, there's actually two movies. There's, Groundhog Day, which is kind of the easy one. And then there's, not the easy one, but it's kind of more pleasant. And then the movie that just came out recently with Tom Cruise, which is what, lather, rinse, and repeat. I don't know. It's the one where he keeps dying and reliving the same day. It's kind of like, that's like the nightmare version. But that's the deal you're going to be in. It's going to be every time you get the kids back, you're going to be starting over from scratch. And your whole goal your whole job is going to be trying to minimize the impact of this with the kids. Now, the first step on doing that is minimizing contact with the narcissist. Now, if you looked at other sites and you've read other things, there's the catchphrase of going no contact, just go no contact. No contact is great. It's awesome. You know what? I mean, I see why it works, and it's easy to get not easy, but it's like you can get yourself in the mindset, you're doing no contact, and you set your own boundaries. What do you do whenever the narcissist is your kid's parent, and you have to interact with them? You minimize that contact with them. If you're going through a phase where you're trying to work with your ex and you are trying to share information and it's impossible and you cannot get school information, you can't get, report cards, you can't get any of that stuff. And you're driving yourself crazy because a court order says they're supposed to do it. Unless you have a ton of money and you can go back to court and go back to court and go back to court to try to force the person to do something, you have to come up with a mechanism to work with it that doesn't drive you or your kids crazy. Okay? The first step with that is minimize contact with the ex, with the narcissistic ex. Okay? You can't really go no contact, right? If you have information, you need to share it, but just, minimize it. Just, recognize, this is a tough one because in the beginning, you're going to be trying to wrap your head around it. You're going to be trying to say, well, okay, this just doesn't make sense. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to try to remind them. I'm going to try to inform them. I'm going to try to educate them. You're going to do all these type of things. If you reoccurringly see that you're getting nowhere with it, just know that is a very strong indicator of what you're dealing with. That's where you need to take a step back. I know I say that all the time. Take a step back, evaluate your situation, and come to a realization of what you're dealing with. Okay? Now, one way you can do this is by working with the teachers. You don't really necessarily want to get get the teachers in the middle of it, but you need to communicate enough with them to where they understand what's going on and they'll at least work with you. You know, one thing you may notice as you're going through this, and I had this happen at one point where I went to take my youngest to a doctor's appointment, and the teacher literally wouldn't send her up to the office. The note was, Dad needs to come down to this to pick her up in the classroom. And I go down there, she pulls me outside, and she runs down this laundry list of what's going on, you know, what's going on with my daughter. And she's really frustrated because she's like, I've been sending notes home, nothing's happening, nothing, you know, whatever. And I'm like, well, you know, I generally, you know, the kids go to aftercare program whenever they're with me. Mom picks them up. Have you talked to their mom? You know, never seen the mom, never, anyways. So, but once I was able to work with her and she realized what was going on, she just started sending me the information. She would send me the information directly. She'd make sure the information went to me, you know, that she would send the information home on days that my daughter was with me. And I worked around it, right? You know, be careful, because if you go in there and you start trying to say, you know, hey, my ex is this, 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 and this. Here's the thing. People who do this, who have this condition, they're going to do the same thing over and over again. So you really don't have to really point it out. You know, you can kind of make a couple of comments like, hey, there's some difficult things going on, and, you know, and they'll see it, right? Most of the teachers I've dealt with over the years, after a little bit, I mean, initially they're suspect of what's, you know, they just think, okay, great, you know, this is a wonderful situation and I don't want to be in the middle of it. That's what they're thinking. But then they start to figure it out, and then they'll start working with you. So, I mean, but don't go in there bashing on the ex right up front, and be mindful. You probably, if you do a parent-teacher meeting, you know, narcissists are good at projecting and are good at pretending to project the right thing. I mean, and what I mean is that you can be in a meeting and the teacher can be saying, oh, well, we should do this and this and this. And they'll be like, oh, yes, oh, right on that. And then nothing will happen, right? So your best bet is, as soon as you realize what you're dealing with, stop trying to, you know, minimize your contact with the ex. And I'll make another video in specifics on techniques on how to do with this. Work with the teachers to get information through the teachers, through the school. It'll be frustrating because you're going to have to go to the, you know, you'll have to, when the school's sending information out, you're like, hey, you know, you need to send it to me too. What I always do is any information I get, I'm a big proponent of scanning. So I scan it and I email it to her. You know, if teacher's note comes in, scan it, send it, scan it, send it, you know, anything, just scan it and send it on. And, you know, hey, at least you're doing your part. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And the fact that they're not, I guess you could look at it that you have documentation that you're at least trying, right? So be careful of like I said, be careful what you say to your teacher, say to the teachers. You know, don't really drag them in the middle, but, you know, let them know that you want to be a part of it and work with them to help your kids, okay? So the next thing is, you know, model good behavior with the kids. And what I mean by that is I mean, try to show them how it's supposed to work, right? You know, I mean, you know, make sure that you're sharing information. I mean, I guess technically they're not really going to know, but also just, you know, make sure that you're not doing anything that falls into that narcissistic way of behaving, or even a codependent way of behaving, and try to help your kids set good boundaries with you, but be able to, you know, have good communication, and help them model what a good relationship is. So, I mean, I think that's, you know, that's the best thing you're going to be able to do through this, is to be able to demonstrate to your kids a different way of living and interacting and communicating and stuff like that. And it's super important. Okay, the other thing, and this is a tough one, is you don't talk about this in front of the kids. You just don't. And it's tough, right? I mean, because sometimes they're there. I mean, if you're talking to the teachers, if you can't meet with the teacher when they're not there, then have them step out, or set up a private time to have a conversation with the teacher if you need to talk about some things. If you don't have your kids, I mean, if you have a split visitation and there's times that you don't have your kids, which most than likely it's going to be. I mean, even if you have the kids the majority of the time, they are going to be with the other parent at some point. Then have the conversations then. Don't do it in earshot with the kids, and that's a tough one, because sometimes you're trying to deal with something, and maybe you need to reach out to your support system to get some ideas and concepts on how to deal with it. And just do what you can. Go walk outside. Stuff. Somehow just don't. They'll figure this out on their own. You pointing it out or trying to tell them what the situation is, it will blow up in your face. Don't do it. If they start talking to you and asking you questions, maybe that's a different story. If they have a therapist or you're dealing with a therapist, then you might, you could bounce some ideas off of an appropriate way to deal with that. But, just your best bet is to get to just demonstrate a good environment for your kids. Okay. The next thing, don't try to reason with the narcissist. And what I mean is don't engage in conversation with, why are you doing this? The court order says you're supposed to do this. This is bad for the kids. This is, we need to do what's best for the kid. It's not going to work. I mean, if you try that a few times in the beginning and you don't have any success with it, just put in your mind that something is wrong, because a normal situation, a normal healthy person can put their issues aside for the best interest of their kids. If they're not able to do that, take that as a huge indicator that something significant is wrong, and just stop. Because if you do, all you're doing is you're falling into the narcissistic trap. You're taking the bait, you're being gaslit, and it's not going to accomplish anything except get you frustrated and angry and stressed and all those things. This goes back to some of the other videos where I was talking about, and I'll say it again right now, you're trying to build a environment for yourself and your kids with your support system and everything you're trying to do to have a calm and grounded environment for yourself and for your kids. And when you have that and then you're dealing with these other issues, it makes it so much easier. Okay, this is a quick video just on trying to co-parent with a narcissist, and unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, it's not possible. It sucks. It's frustrating. You're gonna feel trapped. But if you do some of the things I was talking about above what I was talking about before, it'll help you. Some of those little things, just being able to minimize contact, being able to work around not getting information by talking to the teachers, those type of things are really critical in it. And it's possible that at some point, maybe even in the beginning of it, they might even not show up to some of the appointments, which makes it easy. Now, you're going to be stressed and you're not going to know, and you'll be waiting for them to show up, and the last minute you'll find out that they're not showing up, and then sometimes they'll be there. You don't know. It's just going to be, and that's kind of the way they operate. So there you go. So I know it sucks. I know. I get it. It's tough. It makes absolutely no sense. you'll be wrapping your head around it, just trying to wonder what in the world is going on. That's just part of it. That's just part of this paradigm, if you want to call it that. And knowing that and being able to operate in that environment, you can help yourself and you can help your kids. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. You know, it's a tough one, guys. Anyways, if you have some experience with trying to co-parent with a narcissist and you've had some success stories, maybe you've done some of the same things I've already talked about, or maybe you haven't tried them, or maybe you tried different things, put them in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you find this helpful. If you know somebody who's going through this too, share this video with them. Maybe it can help them. What I continually find is a lot of times this stuff is incredibly, when you take a step back, it's incredibly simple on how to deal with it and to effectively change your environment and the environment for your kids in a positive way. Okay, so on that, I'm going to wrap this up. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it and hope this video helped you, and I will talk to you on the next one. Thanks, guys.